So it's not easy for people to have different living situations during this time, right? And honestly, during this time, the conflict never really fully goes away. All right, if Larry is listening, I need you to hear me, Larry. Not everybody wants to stay in the same house with their ex. They don't. And I know it's easy for you to say, hey, client, you should stay in that home with your ex until this divorce is over or until we have something established. But for some of us, it's just not safe. And so today's episode, I'm going to talk about nesting. And I'm not talking about nesting where a couple decides long term that they're going to leave the family home alone and keep the kids there and then go get their own apartments. I'm going to talk about nesting during a divorce process where you are trying to navigate staying under the same roof while getting a divorce and how messy and tangled it can really get into. And why Larry, your divorce lawyer, is giving you ill advice that it's a must. You have to stay here. You have to stay here. That's not for everybody. And if you're dealing with high conflict and being recommended to stay in the home, this episode is for you. All right, this is a popular request inside of the newsletter that goes out where someone asks, can you cover nesting and what it is, pros and cons, and just your thoughts on it? And I'm just going to preface this by saying, in my own personal experience in working with clients for over a decade, this has backfired more than what it's been worth. And I'm going to talk about two parts of it. First off, nesting can mean just the trial period of you saying you want a divorce, but you have no plan yet and you both stay in the same home. Technically, that is nesting. You're both there at the same time. You know you're going through a divorce. This is a really ugly time where everybody's in their feels and everybody's super protective and everybody's starting to hire their attorneys and they're getting information and you're in the same home. So I want you to understand nesting isn't just the end where some people, and this just sounds radical to me, and maybe it's because I have such a high conflict background, but nesting is what some people pick as a way to live the rest of their co-parenting journey. And I just have so many questions for those of you that choose to do this, but a lot of people will keep the family home or keep a home. The kids never leave that home and parents swing in and out on the visitation schedule. So mom and dad would have another location that they live, maybe a different apartment. I had one couple that shared the family home. When it was their visitation, they came to the family home. The children never left. And then they shared an apartment as well, a 2-bedroom apartment. And so they were just never around each other at the same time. One person was at the apartment while one person was with the children. And then they would swap the following week and do it that way. And I just have so many questions like, who's cleaning the toilets? Who's buying the groceries for that house? To me, you're just like, get separate bedrooms in your home and save a apartment bill. I don't know. But then I have so many questions of like, when you have a sleepover and you screw your new partner on your couch, and then your ex comes the next week and they sit on that couch, like so many questions, but I digress. But let's go into why people think this is a good idea. Number one, it keeps the kids home, staying in the same home. So when you say, hey, I want a divorce and neither one of you move out, right now your kids are still in the same home. So that can feel good. You know, your kids weren't abruptly altered the second that you picked divorce. The kids are still there. All right. There's less disruption that way, allegedly. Parents believe it protects their kids emotionally because they get to keep the family home. Now, I disagree with this completely, but that's what people think when they first pick nesting. And attorneys, and this is my biggest like gut punch, attorneys suggest this and they tell you, hey, I can't have you leaving the house. So you need to stay there and stay there as long as possible. Okay, so let me get this straight, Larry. Larry is the lawyer that I refer to that usually gives you bad advice. Larry is telling me to hunker down, 10 toes in the sand. Don't leave the home. I don't want you abandoning the home. I don't want you taking the children. I don't want you to leave the children. So stay there, stay there, stay there. It's the same person I just told a week ago when I hired them that I was being abused. It's not good. It's constant fighting in front of the children. It's whatever I just told you a week ago. And now you're giving me the advice to stay in that home. I have a lot of problem with this because first and foremost, we don't know how long this divorce is going to last. Secondly, we don't know what it's really like for those kids because we're an adult looking at it through adult eyes. We don't know how traumatic it is for our children to have to witness us living in the home together while we're going through this divorce process. Ooh, gross. And I also just don't like the idea of my life is going to take a turn. I want a divorce, but I still have to live in the turmoil that I'm trying to get away from. It sounds disgusting to me, and it doesn't sound like it's good for my mental health. But a lot of people pick it because they feel like it's a temporary thing to do during the divorce, where they'll just stay in the home together. So, for today's argument and conversation, I want to talk just about people that are divorcing and it takes a long time and you stay in the same home during the process. All right. So on paper, it sounds really helpful and thoughtful, but we really don't know what it's like for the kids because if you're anything like some of the cases that I help with, there's usually one parent that can follow the basic common sense rules during the divorce process. And then there's the other parent who acts like an absolute man child or just idiot or crazy or narcissistic, selfish, crying all the time. Like they're just beside themselves and they punish everyone in the room all the time. Right. And so nesting to me does not seem like a good fit. Staying in the home together during the divorce doesn't sound like a good fit. But the other part of it is people stay because they feel like it's a huge financial strain. They're not divorced yet. They haven't separated their money. And so you don't have the ability to go get another location because all of our money is going towards the mortgage and the bills and the finance. And now we have this attorney bills. So it's not easy for people to have different living situations during this time, right? And honestly, during this time, the conflict never really fully goes away. So parents never truly get to separate during this time. And I think we've touched on it. You just told this person you want a divorce and they may have agreed or disagreed. Either way, they probably didn't like the news. And now you expect them to walk around the home, cordial, respectful, easygoing, like nothing's changed. And again, there's some sociopaths out there that will act fine and normal for certain parts of the day. And then there'll be others that will lose their over absolutely everything. But the thing with nesting is we typically try to talk you into having some basic common sense rules about when to be home, when not to be home. Let me start having the children by myself. You can have the children by yourself. Hey, I'm going to be respectful and move into this bedroom. You keep your in this bedroom. You use this bath. But high conflict people don't follow those rules. They don't follow those schedules. And so you feel like you've hit insanity when you're going back to your attorney saying, I need out of this house. And your attorney's like, whoa, pump the brakes, Sam. I can't have you leaving this house just yet. Like, you need to stay. Okay, Larry, but you're not the one in the house. You don't know how crazy is getting. I had this client one time. We're going to pause for a story. Who her attorney pushed and pushed and pushed for her to stay in this home. 2 years. 2 years. This divorce drug out. And in that process, his mother moved in because she was in a different country and their culture, they come and they stay for long periods of time. And so the mother was in the home. The mother-in-law was in the home for like 6 months with a separated conditions of living already in 2 different bedrooms. And this mother-in-law was just bird dogging this mother the whole time. She never had alone time with her own child. So when dad would be away at work, the mother-in-law would swoop in and undermine her, take the child, do things with the child. And it got to the point where I'm pretty sure that she was poisoned a couple times by the mother-in-law. Now I'm not here, it's, alleged, but I'm telling you what, when it gets to that point where you're second guessing your food intake, Larry would have to kiss my ass. I'm going to an apartment or a rental, something. I am not staying in a home where I'm being monitored with cameras. I have a mother-in-law up my ass, not leaving me alone with my own child. I have an ex who's talking to my child blatantly wrong right in front of me. I'm not staying there for that. And so when your attorney gives you this advice, I think this is one where you have to completely disagree. If you are just not safe and not well in that house and the tension is just so high, you got to get out. I don't care if you move into your mom's basement. I don't care if you sleep on her couch. Get out and get your mental health checked. Make sure you're physically safe. Make sure your food is food that you should be eating. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, some of these exes go absolutely bonkers when you decide to leave. And I don't need to be there for that. I don't need to be there to watch them come for me every day. I mean, can you imagine being in a home that you were married to somebody for, let's say, 10 years, and all of a sudden you wake up the next day and there's cameras everywhere listening and watching your every move, and it's the marital home and there isn't much you can do about it. That's not an environment I mentally need to stay in for the duration of this divorce. And so nesting is not a good fit for everybody. And not to mention, even though these divorces drag on, at some point you will move on with relationships and you're in the same home still. That just gets really, really, really messy. Okay. So, another thing I want attorneys to say and to hear is just because you want me to stay doesn't mean it's a good fit for me. So, what are you going to do to get me out? And an attorney has ways to help you get out. They can message the courts, they can tell these judges, they can tell the opposing counsel. Again, I'm not here for legal advice, but they can say, hey, just because Sam's moving out doesn't mean she's giving up any rights to the home, any possessions in the home, yada, 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 insert all the legal jargon there. But this idea that you have to stay hard and stay in that home, I just can't agree with during the divorce process. And I don't know about you all, but what I'm seeing across the board on social media is I see people triggering other people to overreact. And then they use that overreaction in court by leaving a mess in the house continually. And then the wife or the husband explodes about the mess. Now they've recorded you having this fit of a typical fight in a marriage about a mess being left. And then they're claiming, she's irrational, she's crazy, she screams and hollers all the time. And then boom, that video's used. I don't want that for you because you are emotionally challenged during this process. You're burnt out, you're tired, you're overwhelmed. All of that is a normal, natural response when going through a divorce. Now you tack on the idea that you are getting watched and listened to. And I've had clients whose personal spaces are invaded. I've had women have locks on their doors. The locks have been broken. I had a locksmith be called one time so that somebody could get into a bedroom and read everybody's private thoughts. And so you should be keeping nothing inside of that home, by the way, right? If that's how bad it is that you have a padlock on your bedroom door, we should not be in the same home. We should just not be in the same home. Nesting is for a very small percentage of people. And it's for those people that still respect each other, still love each other, just don't want to be married anymore, always put the children first. And there's people out there like that. They probably don't follow me, but there's people out there like that. And I love that for those people. And I think that's great for your child. And I'm jealous of that you have that awesome relationship. But what that encounters is two normal, sane, rational, respectful, loving human beings. This is not that. I can't do that. I'm sorry. It's not for those couples that walk in and tell their attorney, hey, I want a divorce. I told them last night and they threw all my front yard. Well, I'm going to need you to stay in the house. I walk in and I say, hey, I told them I want a divorce and they drained all of our bank accounts. Well, I'm going to need you to stay in the same house. Did you not hear what I just said? You want me to stay in the home where someone has turned a 180 and is completely going against everything that we did 5 minutes ago. I don't feel safe there. Well, it's going to look bad if you leave. Okay, well, what are you going to do to make sure it doesn't look bad? Don't let Larry pressure you into doing the heavy lifting. I'm pretty sure that's what that fat retainer is supposed to be paying for, is for them to do the heavy lifting to make you safe. And if being in that home isn't safe for not only you, but just the presence, like I'm trying to picture, and excuse me if this is too callous, I'm trying to picture what it would have been like if I would have stayed in a home with my ex during that process, because it took 4 years for us to get our custody battle figured out, 2 years to get divorced. Are you kidding me? Just that 2 years alone, living in the same house during that time. Now, if you know anything about my story, we might as well have been in the same house because he was watching my ever move from my other house anyways. But had we been in the same house, those kids would have been told everything possible bad about me with me standing right there. Now, what ended up happening is they heard everything bad about me when I wasn't there, but it would have been right in front of my face. I would have had zero privacy. There's no way. I would have not felt safe leaving them. He would have never left me alone with the children. It just would have not worked out. One of us would be on Dateline and one of us would be in jail. That's how that would have ended. And I know that's how it's ending for a lot of people as well. So staying and nesting during this divorce process, I think is an old methodology that should have died when old templates for parenting plans died a long time ago. All right. Everything needs to be custom for everybody's specific situations. But here's the deal. If you are told that you have to stay in the home, here's just some basics that I want you to ask for. Even in your temporary order and you're in the same home, you can still put a clear visitation schedule. And I've done this for a multitude of people that think this is a great idea, or they were told it was a great idea that they had to stay in the same home and they could not listen to my advice and they thought they knew better. Most of them figured out that I was right. But a lot of it is still saying, like, even though we're in the same home, we're in separate bedrooms, you can have the children on Monday and Tuesday nights. I will stay gone. I'll be at the office late. I'll stay at a friend's house, or I won't come home till 8 o'clock. But if I do come home early, I'll sneak through the back door and go straight to my room, and I won't come out until the kids are in bed. That worked for one of my couples. And then Wednesdays and Thursdays, the other parent had the children. And then on weekends, they alternated, where one person, again, could freely go with the kids, plan things for the kids, take the kids, was in charge of the kids' bath, food, everything. Other parents saw the kids, but if they said, hey, we're leaving, they couldn't say about it. They could leave. And then we always used morning time as a neutral time that both parents. So even though one parent had Monday and Tuesday evenings, mornings were always that get ready for school, get ready for work. Everybody can see the children, engage with the children, do the children, all that. But then in the nighttime, as soon as school is over, it was one parent's responsibility. And so if it's sporting events, it's your night, you take them. Can the other parent attend? Yes, but the children are starting to get used to the idea that they're only having one parent care for them each night. All right. So that is one little bit of advice. But even when you're building your temporary order under the same home, we need to make sure we're hitting the mark of understanding that we got to talk about the money. We got to talk about possession of the home, and we got to talk about decision making. Because even though we're under the same roof, we're not agreeing. And so I need help and paperwork on helping really understand, what does this look like? So for me, giving you advice, nesting is just a transitional tool. It's not a way we're going to do things in the future, and it's going to always be this way. We're not sharing an apartment and coming back, and the children are resilient. I know you've heard it. I've raised kids. They are. Kids are going to be okay. Just like kids are okay going to a new classroom every year and having a new teacher. They do just fine. Just like kids go to different classrooms every day. They go to art one day. They go to music one day. Kids transition from house to house, parent to parent. You can do it too. They don't need their childhood home if it's a pile and there's constant fighting and arguing there. They want a safe home, a stable home. And if that means there's two, great. Kids will adjust because it's their story and that's what they have. Kids want to adapt to safety. They want to lean into safety and calmness. And you two being together in that home is not that. So separation is actually going to reduce the exposure to conflict. And stability is what matters most. And if that means two separate locations, then let's do it. And here's the deal. You're a grown adult and your attorney is telling you to stay somewhere as a grown adult. That attorney is not paying those bills. That attorney is not staying with that house. That attorney is not in that house living that, questioning your food, questioning if you're being recorded. That attorney is not living that life. You have to do where your mental health will be successful and where your physical health will be successful. And for some of you, that's not in this house. That is not in this house. So I really want you to pay attention to talking to your attorney and making sure that nesting may work temporarily for a short amount of time for some families, but it's not for everybody. It's not going to be for everybody. So you have to make sure from the get-go that your attorney knows where you stand on, are we sharing the home? Are we not sharing the home? How long will this be? And any attorney that says, oh, just stay there, it's only going to be a few weeks. I don't know about you, but I've been doing high conflict for a long ass time. And a high conflict divorce does not take a few weeks. It takes a year, if not 18 months. And you staying in that home that whole time is not. And I asked the question of this. Does your attorney want you to stay in that home, not only because it's an easier thing for them to handle, but number two, it's also more conflict, which we all know what? More conflict creates more billable hours. And so ask yourself, am I being bamboozled into thinking that I should stay because this helps who in this story? Just my attorney. It's not helping me. It's not helping my kids, but it is helping my attorney for an easy case. No, I'm not doing that. I am not doing that. I don't want anything I said today to be taken as a have to. If your situation is different and you are nesting and you're staying in the same home during your divorce process, kudos to you. But I want to make sure you check in with your safety. How's your mental health? How's your physical health? How are you financially? How are you doing? Are you being recorded? If you're divorcing anybody of high conflict, I can pretty much guarantee you're being recorded in your own home. So just be mindful of that as you navigate this. But my heart goes out to you if you're having to share a home with the person you're trying to divorce, because it's not for the faint of heart and it's not easy. So I want you to be really considering joining the Next Chapter membership, where you can get some help on validating your concerns, maybe get some education about some do's and don'ts in co-parenting and divorce, but really just have a support system of coaches that are there to help you navigate this whole process of living with your high conflict ex who's probably gunning for you in this custody battle. And so I don't want you to ever feel like you have to navigate this or try all this on your own. There is support out there, and it's called The Next Chapter. Check it out. It's for moms only. It's paid bi-monthly, and it's an opportunity for you to come in, get some coaching, ask a question every single Monday, and take advantage of the 100 hours worth of trainings.